Admiral Kinam sat in the cold metal chair and listened to the same arguments he had heard for 30 years. The Galactic Coalition Council chamber was massive, with seats for representatives from dozens of worlds. Most of those seats belonged to species that looked down on humanity as children playing at being adults. "The human proposal is rejected," announced Councillor Vextha, her blue skin shimmering under the artificial lights. The luminary always spoke as if their words came from some higher power. "Your species lacks the experience for military command." Kinam kept his face calm. He had learned long ago that showing anger only made the aliens more certain that humans were too emotional for important decisions. Behind him, his aide, Captain Yunho, shifted slightly in his seat. Kinam knew Yunho wanted to speak, but this was not the time. "With respect, Counselor," Kinam said slowly, "human tactical simulations have shown a 93% success rate against hegemony forces. Our strategies could save millions of lives." The insect-like Threx representative clicked his mandibles in what passed for laughter among his kind. "Simulations are not reality, human. Your people have never faced true combat. The hegemony has been fighting wars since before your world knew fire." Kinam had heard this before too. It was always the same. Humans were too young, too soft, too peaceful to understand real war. The fact that Earth had not started a major conflict in over a century was seen as weakness, not wisdom. "The decision is final," Vextha continued. "Human forces will remain in support roles. You will provide ships and supplies. Leave the fighting to those who understand it." The meeting ended like all the others. Kinam walked out of the chamber with his small human delegation, past the towering statues of coalition heroes. None of those statues showed human faces. In 30 years of membership, not one human had been considered worthy of such honor. Captain Yunho waited until they were alone before speaking. "Sir, how long do we keep playing this game?" Kinam looked at his younger officer. Yunho commanded the Earth Defense Force flagship Indomitable, one of only 12 human vessels allowed in coalition space. Officially, it was a support ship. Unofficially, it was something very different. "As long as it takes," Kinam replied. "Our orders are clear. We wait." "The crews are getting restless," Yunho said. "Lieutenant Commander Bora showed me the latest intelligence reports. The hegemony is massing for another major assault. If we could just show the coalition what we're really capable of." "No." Kinam's voice was firm. "We stick to the plan. 30 years of preparation cannot be wasted on impatience." They walked to the transport bay in silence. Around them, the space station buzzed with activity. Luminary diplomats floated past in their environmental suits. Threx workers scuttled along the walls, their multiple arms carrying tools and supplies. Nereid representatives swam through specially designed water-filled tubes that ran along the ceiling. All of them ignored the humans as usual. The transport ship that would take them back to human space was small and plain. It looked exactly like what it was supposed to be, a simple cargo hauler. Kinam settled into his seat and activated his secure communicator. "This is Admiral Kinam to Terran Command," he said quietly. "Report." The hologram that appeared showed Director Sujin, head of Earth Strategic Command. She looked tired, but then she always looked tired these days. Running a secret military buildup while maintaining the appearance of a peaceful industrial society was not easy work. "Admiral," Sujin said, "we've received troubling news from the frontier. The hegemony has begun probing attacks on our outer colonies. 3 settlements have reported Velth scout ships in their systems." Kinam frowned. The Velth were the leaders of the hegemony, reptilian warriors who believed that might made right. They had been testing coalition defenses for months, but attacking human colonies was a new development. "What's the coalition's response?" he asked. "The usual," Sujin replied. "They've filed a diplomatic protest and increased patrols in the area. But those patrols don't include any human ships. We're not allowed to defend our own people." This was the price of the masquerade. For 30 years, humanity had pretended to be a peaceful species focused on trade and industry. They had built the coalition ships, supplied their materials, and provided technological support. In return, they were treated as junior partners, useful but not important. What the coalition didn't know was that every ship humanity built had hidden capabilities. Every trade station doubled as a military outpost. Every peaceful research facility was developing weapons technology that would make the galaxy's current conflicts look like children throwing rocks. "Any word from Commander Taehyun?" Kinam asked. Sujin's expression grew darker. His teams have identified 17 major hegemony staging areas. They're preparing for something big, Admiral. Bigger than anything they've attempted before. Commander Taehyun led humanity's Special Operations Division, a force that officially didn't exist. While the coalition debated and the hegemony planned, human operatives moved through the shadows, gathering intelligence and preparing for the war everyone knew was coming. "Sir," Captain Yunho interrupted softly, "we're receiving an emergency transmission from New Seoul Station." New Seoul was one of humanity's newest colonies, a research outpost in the frontier region. It housed 50,000 civilians, mostly scientists and their families. The station was completely defenseless, protected only by the coalition's promise that civilian targets would not be attacked. The transmission was garbled with static, but the words came through clearly enough. "Mayday, Mayday, this is New Seoul Station. We are under attack. Hegemony forces have breached our defenses. They're targeting the civilian sectors. Repeat, they are targeting civilians." The signal cut to static, then to nothing. Ki-nam stared at the silent communicator for a long moment. Around him, the transport ship continued its journey toward human space, but everything had changed. The hegemony had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. They had attacked defenseless civilians, and the coalition would do nothing more than file another protest. He opened his secure communicator again. This time he used a different code, one that had not been activated in 30 years. "Director Sujin," he said quietly, "implement Response Protocol 7. Sujin's face went pale. She had hoped never to hear those words. "Sir, are you certain?" "Once we begin, there's no going back." "I'm certain," Ki-nam replied. "Send word to all commands. The masquerade is over. Humanity is going to war." "What about the Coalition Council?" Sujin asked. Ki-nam thought about the hours he had spent in that chamber, listening to aliens dismiss his people as too young and too weak to matter. He thought about the human strategies that could have saved thousands of lives, rejected because they came from the wrong species. He thought about New Seoul and 50,000 innocent people who had died because the coalition couldn't protect them. "Inform the council that humanity is withdrawing from the coalition effective immediately," he said. "We're taking responsibility for our own defense." "And the hegemony?" Sujin asked. Ki-nam's expression hardened. For 30 years, humanity had shown patience. They had built quietly, prepared carefully, and waited for the right moment. The right moment had arrived. "Send them a message," he said. "Tell them they have 6 days to surrender unconditionally. After that, we end this war our way." The transport ship continued toward human space, carrying news that would change the galaxy forever. Behind them, the Coalition Council continued their debates, unaware that the species they had dismissed as children was about to show them what real power looked like. In the depths of space, hidden bases came online. Secret shipyards revealed themselves. Weapons that had been disguised as industrial equipment activated their true purposes. Across human space, the greatest military force the galaxy had ever seen began to move. The age of patience was over. The age of humanity had begun. The emergency session of the Galactic Coalition Council began 3 hours after New Seoul went dark. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered in the Great Chamber, their voices mixing into a chaotic symphony of panic and blame. Councillor Vextha of the Luminari floated above her chair, her usually calm demeanor cracked with stress. "The situation is worse than we thought," she announced to the chamber. "Hegemony forces have launched simultaneous attacks on 7 coalition worlds. Our fleets are scattered and overwhelmed." Hive Commander Zicht clicked his mandibles rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation among the Threx. "My warriors report impossible losses. The hegemony fights with new weapons, new tactics. They seem to know our every move before we make it." Admiral Ki-nam sat quietly in the human section, watching the panic spread through the chamber. His aide Captain Yunho shifted nervously beside him, but Ki-nam remained perfectly still. He had been expecting this moment for years. "We must evacuate the core worlds," declared Councillor Merhai of the Nereid, her gills fluttering with distress. "Our fleets cannot hold against this assault." "Evacuation is surrender," Vextha replied sharply. "The coalition has never retreated from its responsibilities." "Then what do you suggest?" Zicht demanded. "My forces are broken. The luminary ships have been destroyed or scattered. Even the Nereid Deep Space Fleet has been forced to withdraw. We have nothing left to fight with. Kinam stood slowly. The chamber fell silent as all eyes turned to the human representative. For 30 years he had been a quiet voice in this room, offering suggestions that were politely ignored. Today would be different. The human fleet stands ready to engage the enemy, he said simply. Laughter echoed through the chamber. Not cruel laughter, but the kind reserved for children who didn't understand how serious the situation was. Admiral Kinam, Vextha said gently, "We appreciate your offer, but this is not the time for bravery without substance. Human forces are equipped for support roles, not frontline combat. Your 12 ships cannot change the outcome of this war." Zikth added, "Save your people. Evacuate your colonies before the hegemony reaches them." Kinam nodded politely. "I understand your concerns. However, I must inform this council that humanity is implementing Response Protocol 7 effective immediately." The alien representatives looked confused. None of them had heard of Response Protocol 7. Why would they? It had never been mentioned in any official human document. "What is this protocol?" Vextho asked. "Humanity withdraws from the Galactic Coalition," Kinam replied. "We are resuming full sovereignty over our territory and our military forces." The chamber erupted in surprised voices. Counselors spoke over each other, demanding explanations. How could humanity abandon the coalition in its darkest hour? Where was their sense of duty? Kinam waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "Human forces will engage hegemony targets beginning in 6 hours. We advise all coalition ships to withdraw from combat zones to avoid friendly fire incidents." "This is madness," Merhai protested. "You'll be slaughtered. Human technology is a century behind hegemony weapons." "Perhaps," Kinam said calmly. "We shall see." His hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. 3 star systems away, Captain Yunho received the transmission he had been waiting for his entire career. The bridge of the Indomitable suddenly came alive with activity, as his crew began implementing protocols they had trained for in secret. "All hands. This is the captain," Yunho announced over the ship's communication system. "Activate transformation sequence Alpha. This is not a drill." The ship around him began to change. Panels slid away to reveal hidden weapon ports. The cargo bays opened to disgorge fighter craft that had been disguised as industrial equipment. Additional armor plating deployed from concealed compartments throughout the hull. Lieutenant Commander Bora worked frantically at her station, coordinating with other ships in the human fleet. "Sir, all vessels are reporting successful transformation. The fleet is ready for combat operations." "Fleet?" Yunho asked with a slight smile. "Lieutenant Commander, how many ships are we tracking?" Bora checked her sensors twice before answering. "Sir, I'm reading 63 vessels in this battle group alone, all showing full military configuration. Around them, space filled with ships that had seemed to appear from nowhere. Cargo haulers revealed themselves as destroyers. Mining vessels deployed massive railguns. Even civilian transports showed their true nature as fast attack craft. The truth was becoming clear. Humanity had never built a purely civilian fleet. Every ship that left human space served a dual purpose. For 30 years, they had been hiding a military force 3 times larger than anyone suspected. On Earth, Director Su Jin stood in the command center that had been built beneath the Global Trade Authority headquarters. Around her, screens showed the activation of military installations across human space. Asteroid mining stations revealed missile batteries. Research outposts deployed defensive shields. Industrial complexes began producing weapons at rates that should have been impossible. "Report," she ordered. "All hidden installations are coming online," reported her aide. "The Shadow Fleet is deploying according to plan." "Estimated time to full readiness, 4 hours," Sujin nodded. 30 years of careful preparation were finally paying off. While the galaxy had watched humanity build an impressive civilian infrastructure, they had missed the military potential hidden within every project. Commander Tae-hyun received his orders while deep in hegemony space. His team of special operators had been gathering intelligence for months, posing as traders and diplomats. Now their real mission could begin. "All teams, this is Nightfall Command," he transmitted on an encrypted channel. "Execute Phase 1 immediately. Target priority is enemy command and control." Across hegemony territory, human operatives began sabotage operations that would have seemed impossible hours before. Communication satellites went dark. Supply depots exploded. Command bunkers found their security systems turned against them. The hegemony leadership had expected to face the same coalition forces they had been defeating for years. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. War leader Sektar of the Vyelth stood in his command ship, staring at reports that made no sense. "How are these humans intercepting our communications?" he demanded. "Their technology is primitive." His communications officer, a younger Vyelth named Kerhos, looked up from his station with confusion. "Sir, they're not just intercepting our signals. They're feeding us false information through our own networks. Our fleet commanders are receiving contradictory orders." "Impossible," Sektar growled. "Human computer systems are decades behind ours." "Sir," Kerhos said quietly, "what if they're not?" Before Sektar could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. On the main screen, a small human fleet appeared, moving toward their position with impossible coordination. 12 ships, Sektar laughed. "Is this their great response? Prepare to destroy them." But as the human ships drew closer, something strange became apparent. They moved as one unit, responding to threats and opportunities with perfect timing. When the hegemony fleet opened fire, the human ships seemed to know where the shots would be before they were fired. "Sir," Kerhos reported with growing alarm, "they're sharing tactical data instantaneously. No communication delays, no coordination errors. It's like they're all controlled by a single mind." The battle was unlike anything the hegemony had ever experienced. The human ships used weapons that shouldn't have existed. Railguns that fired at impossible velocities. Energy beams that cut through the strongest armor. Missiles that changed course mid-flight to hit targets that hadn't even been selected when they were launched. "Retreat," Sektar ordered. "We need to report this to High Command." But retreat proved impossible. The human fleet had positioned itself perfectly, cutting off all escape routes. One by one, hegemony ships were disabled or destroyed with surgical precision. As Sektar's flagship began to lose power, a transmission came through on all frequencies. The face that appeared on every screen was calm and professional, belonging to a human female in a military uniform. "This is Admiral Bora of the Human Expeditionary Force," the woman said. "Your forces are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender now and you will be treated according to the laws of war. Continue fighting and you will be destroyed." Sektar stared at the screen in disbelief. "Admiral?" But the report said humans had no ranking officers above captain. "The reports were wrong about many things," Bora replied. "You have 30 seconds to decide." Sektar looked around his bridge at his defeated crew. Through the viewports, he could see human ships maintaining perfect formation, their weapons trained on his vessel. These weren't the primitive humans he had been told about. These were warriors who had been hiding their true nature behind a mask of peaceful cooperation. "We surrender," he said quietly. The transmission ended, and across hegemony space similar scenes played out as human forces revealed themselves in system after system. The galaxy was learning a terrible truth. Humanity had never been weak. They had simply been patient, building their strength and waiting for the moment when patience was no longer enough. War leader Sektar stood in the great command chamber of the hegemony high command, his scales dark with anger. Around him, other Vyelth commanders shifted nervously as they listened to reports from the front lines. "Impossible," Sektar growled, his claws scraping against the metal table. "These reports must be false. How can primitive humans defeat our finest warriors?" General Vorthak, eldest of the Vyelth War Council, studied the data streams with growing concern. "The reports are confirmed from multiple sources, War Leader. In the past 18 hours, we have lost 12 battle groups to human forces. Our ships are being destroyed faster than we can count them." "Then we send everything," Sektar declared. "Every ship, every weapon, every warrior. We crush these soft-skinned mammals before they can spread their poison further." The decision was made quickly, as all Vyelth decisions were made. The hegemony would launch the largest military operation in their history, throwing everything they had at human space. They would show the galaxy that challenging Vyelth dominance was fatal. What the hegemony leadership didn't know was that Admiral Kinam was expecting exactly this response. Deep within what appeared to be a simple asteroid mining operation, the hidden fortress station Aegis came fully online. For 20 years it had posed as a civilian facility, mining rare metals from the asteroid belt. Now its true purpose was revealed as massive weapon systems emerged from concealed bays. Admiral Kinam stood in the command center, watching the hegemony fleet approach on his screens. 3,000 ships, the largest force ever assembled by the Velth Empire. It should have been terrifying. Instead, Keenum felt only calm satisfaction. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "enemy fleet will reach firing range in 15 minutes. "Understood," Keenum replied. "Signal all defense platforms. Activate the grid." Around the solar system, hundreds of objects that had been catalogued as commercial satellites began to change. Solar collectors folded away to reveal weapon emplacements. Communication relays deployed missile launchers. Even garbage scows showed their true nature as automated defense drones. The hegemony fleet entered the system expecting to face a few dozen human ships and some orbital defenses. Instead, they found themselves flying into the most sophisticated defensive network ever constructed. "Contact," announced the tactical officer. "Hegemony forces are opening fire." The first wave of enemy missiles streaked toward human positions, thousands of warheads designed to overwhelm any defense. They never reached their targets. The human defensive grid activated with computer-controlled precision, tracking every incoming projectile and destroying them with energy beams that moved at the speed of light. "Return fire," Keenum ordered calmly. What happened next redefined the hegemony's understanding of warfare. Human weapon systems opened fire with technologies that shouldn't have existed. Railguns accelerated projectiles to impossible velocities. Plasma cannons created temperatures hot enough to melt battleship armor. Most terrifying of all were the quantum torpedoes, weapons that seemed to ignore distance and time, appearing inside enemy ships without warning. In the first 10 minutes of battle, the hegemony lost 400 ships. "Impossible," breathed War Leader Sektar from his flagship command center. "No species possesses such weapons." His communication officer looked up with fear in his reptilian eyes. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human commander." Admiral Keenum's face appeared on the main screen, calm and professional despite the carnage surrounding his forces. "War Leader Sektar, this is Admiral Keenum of the Terran Defense Force. You are outmatched and outnumbered. Withdraw your forces now and this battle ends." "Outnumbered?" Sektar laughed harshly. "You face 3,000 ships with a handful of defenders." "I'm afraid your intelligence is outdated," Keenum replied. Computer display current force strength. New contacts began appearing on hegemony sensors, ships emerging from hidden positions throughout the system. What had seemed like empty space revealed itself to be full of human vessels, each one perfectly positioned to maximize their tactical advantage. "Current Terran forces in system," announced a computer voice. 417 ships of the line, 612 support vessels, and 1,300 automated defense platforms. Sektar stared at the tactical display in horror. The humans hadn't just hidden their military capability. They had been building it for decades while maintaining the appearance of peaceful cooperation. Meanwhile, in the Kethmore system, Captain Yun-Ho was demonstrating humanity's new approach to warfare. The hegemony fortress of Kethmore Station had been built to withstand months of siege warfare. It had enough supplies for a year and defensive systems that could hold off entire fleets. Captain Yun-Ho's task force arrived in the U system and immediately began what he called cascade tactics. Instead of attacking the station directly, human forces targeted specific points in its defensive network, creating a chain reaction of failures. "First target, Power Relay Station 7, Yun-Ho ordered. "Precision strike only. We want it disabled, not destroyed." A single human ship moved into position and fired one shot. The power relay exploded in a shower of sparks and immediately 3 defensive platforms went dark. "Second target, Communication Array Delta," Yun-Ho continued. Same approach. Another precise shot knocked out the communication system, leaving the fortress commander unable to coordinate his remaining defenses. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Commander Bora, "the station's shields are collapsing in sequence. Defensive coverage is down to 30%. What should have been a months-long siege was ending in hours. Human tactical doctrine focused on finding the critical weak points in enemy systems and exploiting them with surgical precision. They didn't need to destroy everything. They just needed to break the right things in the right order." In deep space, Admiral Bora led the largest human fleet ever assembled toward the hegemony fortress system of Drakthar. Her task force consisted of 60 ships. But these weren't the converted civilian vessels the hegemony expected. These were purpose-built warships from humanity's secret shipyards. each one incorporating 30 years of advanced research. "Admiral," reported her communications officer, "we're receiving tactical data from Task Forces Alpha through Gamma. All objectives are on schedule." This was humanity's greatest advantage, their ability to coordinate multiple operations across vast distances with perfect timing. While other species were limited by the speed of light in their communications, human forces used quantum-linked networks that allowed instantaneous coordination. "Excellent," Bora replied. "Signal all ships. Prepare for synchronized assault. Mark. Now." Across 12 star systems, human forces began their attacks at exactly the same moment. The hegemony found themselves fighting dozens of perfectly coordinated battles, each one timed to prevent them from moving reinforcements between threatened positions. On the ground, Commander Tae-hyun led his special forces teams in operations that redefined the concept of infiltration. His soldiers used technology that seemed almost magical: personal stealth fields that bent light around them, weapons that could phase through solid matter, and tactical computers that predicted enemy movements before they happened. "Team Alpha, report," Tae-hyun whispered into his communicator as he moved through the corridors of a hegemony command bunker. "Objective secured," came the reply. "Enemy commanders are neutralized. We control their communication systems. Team Beta, weapon systems are ours. We can turn their own defenses against them on your command." This was how humanity fought, not with overwhelming force, but with overwhelming intelligence. Every enemy installation had been studied, every weakness identified, every defense mapped in advance. Human special forces didn't fight their way through enemy positions. They simply walked past defenses that no longer worked. By the end of the third day, the hegemony was in full retreat from human space. War Leader Sektar stood in his damaged command ship, staring at tactical displays that showed the complete collapse of his forces. "How?" he asked quietly. "How did we not see this coming?" His intelligence officer, one of the few survivors of the command staff, looked up from her station. "Sir, we've been monitoring human communications for years. There was never any indication of military buildup." "Because they didn't use communications we could monitor," Sektar realized. "They used something else, something we don't understand." The truth was dawning on the hegemony leadership. Humanity had not just been hiding their military strength, they had been using technology so advanced that the hegemony couldn't even detect it. For 30 years they had been watching children play with toys while missing the fact that the toys were actually weapons. On the fourth day, Sektar attempted to open negotiations. His message was brief and direct. "We offer territorial concessions and tribute in exchange for cessation of hostilities." The human response came within minutes, broadcast on all frequencies so that every species in the galaxy could hear it. "You had 6 days to surrender unconditionally. You chose to continue fighting. The war will end when humanity decides it ends." Admiral Kinam closed the communication channel and turned to his staff. Around him, the command center of Aegis Station hummed with activity as human forces prepared for their final assault. The fourth day of the war began with the activation of Operation Endgame. Across human space, Director Sujin coordinated the largest military operation in galactic history from her command center deep beneath Earth's surface. "All task forces report ready status," announced her aide, a young officer whose calm voice belied the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. "Phase 4 is green for execution." Sujin studied the massive holographic display that showed human forces positioned throughout the galaxy. For 30 years, they had been placing assets in key positions, always appearing to be civilian traders or researchers. Now those assets revealed their true purpose. "Execute Operation Endgame," she ordered. "All targets simultaneous assault." Light years away, Admiral Kinam led the primary assault fleet toward Vorth Prime, the capital world of the Valth Empire. His fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Massive Titan-class dreadnoughts that had been built in secret shipyards beyond Pluto's orbit. Each Titan-class vessel was larger than an entire coalition fleet, armed with weapons that existed only in theoretical physics papers just decades before. The lead ship, Retribution, served as Kinam's flagship, its quantum computers already calculating the most efficient way to end the war. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we're detecting massive hegemony fleet movements toward our position. They're bringing everything they have left. Kinam nodded calmly. Expected. The Velth won't surrender their homeworld without a fight. Signal the fleet. Prepare for engagement. The space around Vorth Prime filled with ships as both fleets moved into position. The hegemony had assembled their last major force. 800 vessels of their finest designs commanded by their most experienced warriors. It should have been enough to stop any assault. They had no idea what they were truly facing. Contact in 30 seconds, announced the tactical officer. Begin demonstration protocol. Kinam ordered. The human fleet opened fire with a single coordinated volley. Each ship targeted a different enemy vessel, and each shot was precisely calculated. The result was devastatingly simple. 800 hegemony ships disappeared in 800 flashes of light. The entire enemy fleet had been destroyed in less than 10 seconds. On the planet below, Velth civilians looked up at the sky in terror as their great armada vanished like stars going out. The humans hadn't just won the battle. They had made it clear that resistance was pointless. Meanwhile, in the Kethmore system, Captain Yun-Ho was putting the finishing touches on his siege operation. The great fortress that had been expected to hold for months was now completely surrounded and cut off from all support. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Commander Bo-Ra, "Fortress Commander is requesting terms for surrender." "Standard terms," Yun-Ho replied. "Unconditional surrender, all weapons to be deactivated, all personnel to submit to processing. No exceptions." The Fortress Commander was a proud Velth warrior who had never contemplated surrender in his long career. But as he looked at the human ships surrounding his position, he realized that pride was a luxury he could no longer afford. We accept your terms," he transmitted. "Understood," Yun-Ho replied. "Prepare to receive boarding parties. Any resistance will be met with immediate destruction of your facility." The human boarding parties that arrived were unlike anything the hegemony had encountered. They moved with mechanical precision, their advanced armor making them look more like machines than living beings. Within hours, they had taken complete control of the fortress without firing a single shot. In the Drakthar system, Admiral Bo-Ra faced a different challenge. The hegemony's fortress world was protected by defensive systems that had never been breached in 3 centuries of warfare. Multiple coalition fleets had tried and failed to crack its defenses. Bo-Ra's solution was typically human in its elegance and efficiency. "Signal the orbital defense grid," she ordered. "This is Admiral Bo-Ra of the Human Expeditionary Force. You have one opportunity to surrender. If you refuse, we will demonstrate why your defenses are obsolete." The response came quickly. "Human scum, you face the might of Drakthar. Our shields have never fallen. Our weapons have never been silenced. Come and die like the rest?" "Very well," Bo-Ra replied calmly. "All ships target the dimensional anchor points. Fire when ready." Her fleet opened fire with weapons that attacked the very fabric of space-time. The fortress's defensive shields, designed to stop conventional energy weapons, were useless against attacks that bypassed normal physics entirely. The shields collapsed in minutes, and the fortress's defensive weapons fell silent soon after. The hegemony's most powerful stronghold had been reduced to helplessness, without a single human casualty. On Vorth Prime itself, Commander Tae-hyun led the first human ground assault in galactic history. His forces moved through the planet's defensive networks like ghosts, appearing inside supposedly impregnable bunkers and vanishing before enemy forces could respond. "Team leaders, report status," Tae-hyun transmitted as he moved through the corridors of the planetary command center. "Alpha Team has secured the primary communication array," came the first response. "Enemy forces are confused and disorganized. Beta Team controls the main power grid," reported another voice. "We can shut down any system on the planet at will. Gamma Team has neutralized the Planetary Defense Command. All orbital weapons are now under human control." This was human ground warfare, not the brutal slugging match that other species expected, but surgical strikes that removed the enemy's ability to fight. Tae-hyun's soldiers didn't need to defeat every enemy warrior. They just needed to take control of the systems that made organized resistance possible. In the deepest bunker of the planetary command complex, war leader Sektar made his final stand. Around him, the last loyal Vilth warriors prepared for their last battle, knowing that death was the only honorable outcome. The bunker's blast doors, designed to withstand orbital bombardment, suddenly dissolved like morning mist. Through the opening walked a single human figure, his stealth field deactivating as he stepped into the chamber. Commander Tae-hyun looked around at the assembled Velth warriors, his expression calm and professional. He was outnumbered 20-1, but he showed no fear. "War Leader Sektar," he said politely, "I am Commander Tae-hyun of the Terran Special Forces. Your planet is under human control. Your fleets are destroyed. Your empire is finished. Surrender now and your species lives." Sektar raised his ceremonial war blade, the weapon of Velth nobility for 1,000 generations. "I am war leader of the hegemony. I do not surrender to inferior species." "Inferior?" Tae-hyun asked with genuine curiosity. "We destroyed your entire military in 4 days. We took your homeworld without significant casualties. We control every major system in your empire. What part of that suggests inferiority?" The question hung in the air like a physical weight. Around the chamber, Velth warriors looked at each other with growing uncertainty. Everything they had believed about human weakness had been proven false. You hid your true nature," Sektar said finally. "You deceived the galaxy." "We showed patience," Tae-hyun corrected. "We prepared carefully. We built strength while maintaining peace. That's not deception. That's wisdom." He gestured toward the chamber's communication system. "Your choice is simple, War Leader. Order your remaining forces to surrender, and your people have a future. Continue fighting, and humanity will be forced to take more direct action." Sektar looked around at his warriors, seeing doubt in their eyes for the first time. They had followed him into countless battles, trusting in Velth superiority and military might. Now they faced an enemy who had proven that superiority was an illusion. "What happens to us if we surrender?" he asked quietly. "You live," Tae-hyun replied simply. "Your people are relocated to worlds suitable for your species. Your military is disbanded. Your government is restructured under human oversight. But you live. And if we refuse?" Tae-hyun's expression didn't change, but something cold entered his voice. "Humanity has been patient for 30 years, War Leader. Our patience has limits. Test those limits and you'll learn why we prefer to avoid war entirely." The implication was clear. Humanity's restraint wasn't weakness, it was a conscious choice. Remove that choice and the galaxy would see what humans were truly capable of. Sektar lowered his blade slowly. Around him, his warriors followed suit, laying down their weapons in defeat. We surrender," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you," Tae-hyun replied courteously. "Your decision just saved millions of lives." As word of the hegemony's surrender spread throughout the galaxy, the Coalition Council reconvened an emergency session. The chamber that had dismissed humanity as too weak for military service now faced the reality that humans had ended a war the Coalition couldn't win. Counselor Vextha floated above her chair, her luminous form dimmed with shock. "How?" she asked simply. "How did we not see what they truly were?" The question had no easy answer. For 30 years, humanity had shown the galaxy exactly what they wanted to see. A peaceful, industrious species focused on trade and cooperation. The military buildup had been hidden in plain sight, disguised as civilian infrastructure and commercial enterprise. The 6th day began with the final assault on Vorth Prime. Admiral Kinam coordinated the operation from his flagship Retribution, watching as human forces moved with the precision of a vast machine designed for a single purpose: ending the war completely and permanently. The orbital bombardment began at dawn, but it was unlike any bombardment the galaxy had ever witnessed. Human weapons struck with impossible accuracy, eliminating military targets while leaving civilian areas completely untouched. Buildings housing enemy commanders simply vanished while the hospital next door remained perfectly intact. "Sir," reported the tactical officer, "all primary military targets have been neutralized. Civilian casualties are 0. Kinam nodded approvingly. This was the human way of war. Overwhelming force applied with surgical precision. They could have turned the entire planet into molten slag, but that would serve no purpose beyond satisfying primitive bloodlust. On the planet's surface, Captain Yunho led the ground assault that would prove humanity's dominance beyond any doubt. His soldiers moved through the capital city like flowing water, encountering resistance and adapting to overcome it in real time. The Velth defenders had prepared for a conventional ground war, with trenches and fortified positions designed to bog down attacking forces for months. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Human soldiers appeared behind defensive lines that should have been impregnable. They walked through walls that should have stopped them, They attacked from directions that geometry said were impossible. The secret was humanity's adaptive warfare technology, equipment that could alter its physical properties to match tactical requirements. Contact front, reported Sergeant Haywan as her squad encountered a Velth strongpoint. Enemy force estimated at company strength, dug in behind energy barriers. Acknowledged, Yunho replied. Execute Protocol 7. The human soldiers activated their phase shift equipment, temporarily altering their molecular structure to pass through solid matter. They walked through the energy barriers as if they were made of light, appearing among the shocked Velth defenders like ghosts become real. The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. The Velth surrender came shortly after. In the deepest levels of the planetary command bunker, war leader Sektar watched his empire die on 1,000 different screens. Every major military installation was falling to human forces. Every fleet was destroyed or surrendering. Every fortress that had stood for centuries was silent. Sir, reported his communication officer, we're receiving surrender requests from every sector. Our forces can't fight an enemy they can't understand. Sektar studied the tactical displays with growing horror. Human forces weren't just winning. They were rewriting the rules of warfare itself. They fought with technology that seemed to violate basic physics, coordinated by computers that predicted enemy actions before they were made. How many ships have we lost? He asked quietly. All of them, sir. Every major vessel in the hegemony fleet has been destroyed or captured. We estimate total casualties at over 2 million warriors. 2 million. The flower of Velth military might, trained from birth for war, eliminated in 6 days by a species the galaxy had dismissed as peaceful merchants. The bunker's massive blast doors, designed to withstand planet-cracking weapons, began to glow and dissolve. Through the opening stepped Commander Tae-hyun, his weapon lowered but ready. War leader Sektar, he said politely. This war is over. Your choice now is how it ends. Sektar looked around at his remaining officers, seeing defeat and confusion in their reptilian eyes. These were warriors who had never known failure, commanders who had conquered dozens of worlds. Now they faced an enemy who made all their experience meaningless. What do you want from us? Sektar asked. Complete and unconditional surrender, Tae-hyun replied. All military forces to stand down immediately. All weapons to be surrendered. All territorial claims to be abandoned. The hegemony as a political entity will cease to exist. And then you live. Your people are relocated to worlds suitable for your species. Your warriors are retrained for peaceful occupations. Your leaders undergo re-education to prepare them for a galaxy where war is no longer permitted. Sektar's claws scraped against the metal table. No longer permitted? You cannot police the entire galaxy. Tae-hyun's expression didn't change, but something cold entered his voice. War leader, we just destroyed the most powerful military force in galactic history in 6 days. We did it while maintaining 0 civilian casualties and minimal collateral damage. We could have ended this war in 6 hours if we had chosen brutality over precision. The human commander activated his portable communicator, and a holographic display appeared showing human military assets throughout the galaxy. What Sektar saw made his blood run cold. These are just the forces we've revealed, Tae-hyun continued. Humanity has been preparing for this moment for 30 years. We have capabilities your species cannot imagine, resources you cannot count, and patience you cannot break. The display showed human installations in every major star system, human ships in every trade route, human agents in every government. For 3 decades, while the galaxy watched humanity build a peaceful trading empire, they had actually been positioning themselves to control everything. You have been conquered not by superior warriors, but by superior planning, Tae-hyun explained. Humanity doesn't wage war like other species. We study the problem, prepare the solution, and execute it when the time is right. Sektar looked at the display showing human dominance throughout the galaxy. How long have you been planning this? Since the day we joined the coalition, Tae-hyun replied honestly. We knew that eventually, someone would mistake our preference for peace as an inability to wage war. We prepared for that day while hoping it would never come. And now the galaxy learns what happens when humanity's patience breaks. The communication system activated, and Admiral Keenam's voice filled the bunker. War Leader Sektar, this is Admiral Keenam. Your military forces have been completely defeated. Your empire no longer exists. I am offering you one final opportunity to prevent further bloodshed. Sektar stared at the speakers for a long moment before responding. What are your terms? Immediate and complete surrender of all hegemony forces, acceptance of human oversight for the transition period, cooperation in the establishment of a new galactic order based on peace rather than conquest. And if we refuse? Kinam's voice remained calm and professional. Then humanity will be forced to take direct control of former hegemony territory. Your people will survive, but your culture will not. The threat was clear without being crude. Humanity could erase Velth civilization if they chose to, but they preferred to offer alternatives. This was mercy backed by overwhelming power. We accept your terms, Sektar said finally. Thank you, Kinam replied. Your cooperation will save many lives. As word of the hegemony's surrender spread throughout the galaxy, the Coalition Council reconvened for what many members suspected would be their final session as an independent body. Admiral Kinam appeared before them, not as a supplicant requesting permission, but as the representative of the galaxy's new dominant power. His calm demeanor was the same as always, but now everyone understood what they were truly seeing. The war is over, he announced. The hegemony has surrendered unconditionally. Their territory will be administered by human forces during a transition period, while new governments are established. Councillor Vextha floated silently for a moment before speaking. And the coalition? Will continue to exist, Kinam replied, with some necessary modifications. The coalition's original purpose was to maintain peace through cooperation. That purpose remains valid. Under human leadership, observed Hive Commander Zekth. Under human protection, Kinam corrected, each member species will continue to govern their own territory and pursue their own interests. However, military threats to civilian populations will no longer be tolerated. The implications were clear. Humanity was not seeking to rule the galaxy directly, but they would control it indirectly by preventing the kind of warfare that had plagued galactic civilization for millennia. What if we refuse these new arrangements? Asked Councillor Merhai. Kinam's expression didn't change. Then you are free to leave the coalition and govern your territory independently. However, any aggressive actions toward other species will be met with immediate human intervention. The choice was no choice at all. Submit to human oversight or face the same fate as the hegemony. One by one, the coalition members accepted the new reality. The age of independent military action was over. The age of human hegemony had begun. On Earth, Director Sujin stood before the Global Assembly to address the people of humanity's homeworld. Around the world, billions of humans watched as their species' true nature was finally revealed to the galaxy. For 30 years, she began, humanity has maintained the fiction that we are a peaceful species unsuited for military action. Today that fiction ends. We are indeed a peaceful species, but not because we lack the ability to wage war. We are peaceful because we understand the true cost of violence. She gestured toward the displays showing the aftermath of the 6-day war.